Esther Gitu Yuwat. It's Wednesday, August 2nd. This is Africa 54. Evacuations from Niger to Paris and Rome are ongoing Wednesday as military chiefs from the Economic Community of West African States hold talks in Nigeria on Niger's change of leadership. More legal troubles for former U.S. President Donald Trump after a federal grand jury indicts him for illegally trying to upend his 2020 election loss to retain power. And in our technology report, a Ghanaian technology-driven learning center is revolutionizing education with innovative and cutting-edge applications. All this and much more coming up on today's Africa 54. We begin with the latest developments out of West Africa, where military chiefs from the Economic Community of West African States are holding talks Wednesday in Abuja, Nigeria, on last week's coup in Niger. The meeting comes as a French military transport plane on Wednesday is resuming a second day of evacuations of Europeans from Niger. France, Italy, and Spain all announced evacuations from Niger for their citizens and other European nationals. The first flight on Tuesday carried mostly French nationals. With Niger's airspace closed, France coordinated the evacuations with a regime that ousted the nation's leader, but without withdrawing its support for democratically elected President Mohamed Bazoum, according to diplomatic officials. The United States and the European Union are calling for Bazoum's government to be reinstated immediately. The first military planes carrying mostly European nationals evacuated from Niger landed in Paris and Rome on Wednesday, with France and other countries expected to fly more of their citizens out of the West African country. Ahmed Lee reports.
The first military planes carrying mostly European nationals evacuated from Niger landed in Paris and Rome on Wednesday. Western countries have been scrambling to extract their citizens after a military junta staged a coup in the West African nation last week. The first French flight arriving in Paris carried more than 260 people on board. France is expected to operate more repatriation flights. Italy's aircraft, meanwhile, brought 87 evacuees to Rome. Italian Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani said the passengers included non-Europeans, such as Americans, Nigerians, and Senegalese. He added some Italian civilians decided to stay in Niger and that the Italian embassy there will remain open. Chargé d'affaires of the U.S. Embassy in Rome, Sean Crowley.
No, they said they've had a very traumatic experience, so please let them go, okay? But we would like to thank the government of Italy for everything that they've done. So it's really been fantastic to have the citizens brought to safety. And so now I know that they're looking after the Italian citizens and we're looking after the American citizens. Thank you very much.
The military coup has raised fears for the security of the Sahel region. Defense chiefs from West Africa's regional bloc, ECOWAS, are slated to meet in Nigeria on Wednesday to discuss the latest situation. But Niger's neighbors, Mali and Burkina Faso, which also experienced coup, earlier warned against any outside intervention to restore the ousted government, saying it would be seen as a declaration of war.
Ahmed Lee of Reuters filed that report. For analysis on the latest developments in Niger, VOA's Paul Ndiho spoke to Dennis Matanda, an adjunct professor of American politics and international business at Catholic University here in Washington.
The president of Niger, the president of Guinea-Bissau, the president of Mali, all these guys, even the president of Sudan, it just feels like they represent a generation of people that have failed to understand equitable distribution of resources. So you have countries that didn't have the resources to provide their youth or their women with a social safety net. And so you're going to have a situation where people are manifesting a certain anger. So I am not surprised especially because the military is very close to the money, to the resources. They are the ones who will make the first move because they would be the first beneficiaries.
There's been this call for intervention from the African Union, from the regional body, ECOWAS. The Chadian president went to Niger as part of this mediation process. Do you think what these guys are offering or the ideas they're bringing to the table is too little, too late?
The one thing that they have failed to do is they have failed to connect with young people. They cannot connect. It doesn't matter what you do. If you cannot connect at a level where you can provide them immediate relief, and when I say immediate, it has to be tomorrow. The African Union, ECOWAS, ECOMOG, COMESA, all these entities, they have very strong institutions. However, the people don't even know what COMESA is or ECOWAS is. So when it says ECOWAS or ECOMOG, they're like, who are you? We don't even know you. There is no direct, tangible benefit. You send the guy from Chad to go to Niger to try and negotiate peace or whatever. That dude is not going to be successful, especially. He cannot provide people with the answers they want.
Regional leaders intervening, that maybe these regional leaders are out there looking out for themselves. Because when you think about it, almost all these guys who are on that block, you look at the likes of Alassane Ouattara shouldn't be a legitimate player when it comes to having some of these conversations. And there are other leaders like that who have changed constitutions or who want to change constitutions to hang on to power.
The youth don't know what you and I know, Paul. They don't know that the guy from Cote d'Ivoire changed the constitution. They don't have the history of Chad. What they see is an individual who comes in to say, hey, that guy is the president. They see the strong cars, they see all these things. The challenge that you have is respect. Can the Chadian president back up his argument if they say to him, okay, fine, why don't you go to hell or do whatever you want? Can he bring the resources from Chad to follow up with his insults? The insults against him. In my opinion, if you had the American Secretary of State flying into Niamey with the power that comes with the American government, there's a very big chance that those youth will stand back and think, all right, let's see what's happening.
Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
That was Dennis Matanda, adjunct professor of American politics and international business at Catholic University here in Washington, speaking to VOA's Paul Ndiho. The United States Institute of Peace says the recent coup in Niger could be a message from young citizens in Africa that democracy is no longer appealing to the continent and that what they may be seeking is customized democracy. Kamisa Kamara, senior advisor for Africa at USIP, spoke to VOA's Ignatius Onol about the political crisis in Niger.
The security situation in the Sahel region has considerably deteriorated since 2012. So this is not a recent trend. It has been going on for over 10 years now. And I do personally believe that the military leaders of this region are using the security situation as an excuse to justify their coups, to appeal to the international community. I think these leaders are very aware of the international context in which these coups are occurring, and they do not necessarily want to be isolated. So they do mention the security situation, which everybody agrees with, to justify the coup, to appeal to the international community, and maybe to secure a future for themselves.
In one breath, they are talking about the fact that they do not want international interference. And hearing you say that they do not want to be isolated gives me makes me wonder where that lies.
International interference, the way I understand it, or the way they mention it, would be more like, do not disturb the coup. This is what we are doing. We're not reinstating the former president. But the reason why I'm saying that they do not want to be isolated is that they do know that there are possibilities for them to be under sanctions. They do understand that also the regional body ECOWAS could prevent them from accessing cash flows the same way the Malian military authorities were prevented from accessing cash flows back in 2020, 2021.
Talking about sanctions and ECOWAS as a regional bloc, I just want to get a sense of what they can do differently, because what it seems is that the sanctions have not delivered the desired results.
I think what has come back over and over again is that the ECOWAS does not have a military force or a standby force that could actually intervene in countries where there is a military coup. So maybe that could be the solution for the ECOWAS to really have teeth in the way it prevents a crisis from occurring. But we have to give ECOWAS credit for the high-level negotiations that the regional body has been conducting to prevent coups from happening.
Where does things lie right now? Not only in Niger, but moving forward within the region. It's a region that we know has increased terrorist attacks, for example.
What international partners are having trouble with and continue to have trouble with is to accept the current military leaders as a political reality in the Sahel region. And I think we just need to think about creative ways to engage with them, to also listen to what the people of this region are want, right? I believe that democracy as we know it in the West doesn't necessarily appeal to young citizens in the region. And yeah, they might want a customized democracy, and we just have to be prepared to listen.
That was Ignatius Ano speaking with Kamisa Kamara, a senior advisor for Africa at the United States Institute for Peace. Voice of America's English to Africa service is celebrating its 60th anniversary, and former VOA employees are extending their warmest wishes. Let's hear from Jody Kapua, a former radio managing editor, and Paul Cisco, a senior TV producer.
Hi, this is Joe DeCapua, former managing editor of Africa News Tonight in the English to Africa service of the VOA. Retired since 2017. I had a great time at the Voice of America, made a lot of good friends, some of whom are still there, and I just want to wish all of you a happy anniversary and many, many more. We did a lot of stories. I want to commend all the people I work with. I think on average each of us did about 300 stories a year, every year, and that was pretty good. When you multiply that by about 4 or 5 of us, that's a lot of stories we covered for the African continent. I was lucky enough to be on the HIV/AIDS assignment, covered that for more than 2 decades. I think we did a lot of good. And back in 2011, with the Ebola epidemic in West Africa, people in West Africa told us that the stories done by English to Africa help save lives. So what you do matters, remember that. Anyway, have fun when you work. If it's not fun, it's not always worth it. So do it with pride, fun, and have a long career.
My name is Paul Cisco. I spent 30 plus years at Voice of America. I worked at ABC before that and elsewhere, and have been running around newsrooms and broadcast centers since I was 4 or 5 years old. And the last 10 years plus that I was at English to Africa at Voice of America are far and away the most rewarding years in the business. But at English to Africa, you have an audience that not only wants to hear what you had to say, but wants to participate in the news events. And it is, I think, one of the most worthwhile things that I have ever done. I worked with David Brinkley. I worked with Ted Koppel on Nightline when it started. I worked with This Week at ABC when it started, both with fantastic anchor persons and certainly the best in the business. But Shaka Sali, on a par with those guys, and really heads above those guys at what he did. And it's largely, again, because there was an audience that wanted to hear what we had to tell them. And we're not just talking about, letters that get chironed up on the screen. We had individuals sitting in Africa that wanted to be on the show and that made the show better because they brought so much more to the show. I mean, it's an incredibly unique exchange, and I don't see it happening with any other television entity.
That was Paul Cisco, a former senior television producer, and Jody Kapwa, a former radio managing editor. The U.S.-sponsored Mandela Washington Summit is ending Wednesday in Washington. More than 700 young African leaders are networking with the U.S. policy and business leaders. For an update on today's activities, I'm joined live via Skype from the event by VOA's Mike Holvey. Mike, tell us what's new today.
Yeah, today there's going to be a lot of action going on. Today's the last day of the summit itself. And to wrap it all up, we're going to have Secretary of State Antony Blinken. He's going to be giving the closing remarks, closing address towards the 700 young African leaders that are here in Washington, D.C.
So what are the Yali Fellows expecting from the summit as it wraps up?
Yeah, as we've highlighted over the past 2-3 days, a lot of them have enjoyed the networking. However, like I highlighted yesterday, today there's going to be at least one fellow that's going to be walking away with a grant or a cash prize or an award that's going to be awarded for the amazing work that they've done over the past couple of years. As to which fellow that is, the name is yet to be disclosed. However, what is guaranteed is by the end of today, there's going to be a couple of fellows that are going to be walking away with a U.S. grant and awards for their amazing work.
Mike, we're going to let you go back to the event. Thank you very much, and we hope all the best for the guy who gets this money. Mike Holvey reporting live for us on the final day of the Yali Summit. Still to come, legal wars mount for former U.S. President Donald Trump. Stay with us.
On the next Straight Talk Africa, we'll examine the latest political developments in Niger and how that might influence stability in the Sahel. Also, VOA's English to Africa service celebrates 60 years of programming to the continent. Join me, Vincent McCory, on the next Straight Talk Africa.
From the vast savannas to the lush rainforests of the continent, experience the soothing touch of shea butter, the revitalizing properties of baobab oil, and the nourishment of African black soup. On this week's episode of Our Voices, we'll be showcasing how these age-old skincare treasures have stood the test of time, promoting healthy, radiant skin while embracing the beauty of diversity. So don't miss this captivating glimpse into Africa's skincare wisdom. Join the conversation each week right here on Our Voices.
In other news, former Ivory Coast nationalist President Henri Konan Bedie has died at 89, according to his party, who made the announcement on Tuesday in Abidjan, where he had been hospitalized. Bedie served as Ivory Coast president from 1993 until 1999. Senegalese Interior Ministry says 2 people were killed Monday during protests in southern region of the country following the indictment and detention of opposition figure Ousmane Sonko, who is a presidential candidate for the 2024 election. And South Africa stuns Italy 3-2 in a thriller and wins a Women's World Cup match for the first time on Wednesday. Captain Thembi Galatana scored the winner in the 92nd minute to make history for South Africa. Legal woes are mounting for former U.S. President Donald Trump after a federal grand jury indicts him for illegally trying to reverse his 2020 election loss. VOA's Michael Brown reports.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump was indicted Tuesday on charges he illegally tried to upend his 2020 election loss to retain power. Special counsel Jack Smith said that lies by Trump fueled the uprising by his supporters at the U.S. Capitol.
The attack on our nation's capital on January 6, 2021, was an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy. As described in the indictment, it was fueled by lies. Lies by the defendant targeted at obstructing a bedrock function of the U.S. government, the nation's process of collecting, counting, and certifying the results of the presidential election.
In response, the Trump campaign released a statement saying President Trump has always followed the law and the Constitution, with advice from many highly accomplished attorneys. He is expected to appear before a judge on Thursday in his first court appearance in the case. It is the second time Trump has been indicted in the past 2 months. Smith has accused Trump of illegally retaining dozens of highly classified national security documents at his Oceanside Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida after he left office. The documents should have been turned over to the National Archives, as he was required to do by U.S. law. A trial has been set for that case in May of next year. Michael Brown, VOA News, Washington.
It's time for a technology report, and joining us now is our tech reporter, Paul Ndiho. Hello, Paul.
Hello, Esther. Makers Place, a technology-driven learning center focused on K-12 education in Ghana, is revolutionizing education with its innovative approach. I spoke to Douglas Aite, founder and CEO of Makers Place in Accra, Ghana. Welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you.
You are working on some interesting stuff, and my understanding is that you've taken young people in Ghana to new places, different heights in terms of innovation and technology.
These are the things we've been able to do over the period, especially the first and the second quarter of the year. One, we have been able to organize robotics scrimmage competition. Students from different schools who are part of our after-school program got the opportunity to compete among themselves, and I've shared a video with you. We also organized what we call Microbit Do Your Bit Challenge, where students showcase solutions around their sustainable development goals.
How many children would you say have gone through some of your training programs?
It's over 3,000, but then we normally do it on a quarterly basis. So for this year alone, we've trained over 900 people.
That's a huge impact on the community, my friend. What keeps you motivated to keep these programs going?
The main motivation is to get more young people skilled, right? I want to make sure that young people are learning towards acquiring what you call employable skills so that they will become more sustainable and take care of their family.
What type of skills trainings do you offer to these young people who come to your center?
We teach them coding, so some of them are able to program their website. Others are learning coding towards building an AI systems. We also teach electronics. We teach robotics. So you can see behind me, we have different robotic kits that we are using. So when the children come, they learn about that. We also teach 3D modeling and 3D printing, so that at the end of the day, whatever they learn in electronics, whatever they learn in robotics, whatever they learn in coding, they're able to put them together and use the 3D printer to come out with a product.
You said that you cannot believe how much of an impact we've had on you as a media organization. You've told me that since talking to you previously, you've had a lot of people reach out to you. Do you mind sharing that very, very important message with us?
Your support and everything you are doing for young people in Africa, especially giving them a platform for people to hear about what they are doing, is very instrumental, and we are so grateful onto that. Right? Through VOA, we have been able to reach out to other organizations in Africa. Uganda, I have friends now in Kenya, I have friends in South Africa, and I have friends in Cameroon. Through your network, they've been able to reach out to me as well, and we are talking on different levels, right? So your platform is one of the best platforms I've seen so far, championing tech in Africa, and I really commend you people for what you are doing.
I'm equally humbled by what you've been able to do. I'm glad that the small contribution that I've given you in terms of publicity has opened up so many doors for you. And that's precisely why we do some of these programs, is to help people like you who are going out of their way. You're using your own resources to empower other young people. I could not have done it without this incredible platform that the Voice of America has given to me. And so I appreciate your feedback.
Your platform is really helping us because now we got recognition from Arduino, which is an Italian company, right? They recognize the work we are doing. We got opportunity and recognition from Microbit in UK. They sent somebody all the way from UK to come and see what Maker's Place is doing, putting out on. But it's all made possible because Paul decided that he will advocate for young people to be heard, right? So you are championing, you are giving voice to the voiceless who are doing amazing things in different communities across Africa. Without your platform, I think you are the first person to interview me, right? Mm-hmm. Even in Ghana, nobody has interviewed me.
Keep up the good work. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was Douglas Aite, founder and CEO of Maker's Place Center in Accra, Ghana. That's today's Tech Report. Back to you, Esther.
Thanks, Paul. Good work there. Be sure to join Paul Ndiho every Wednesday right here for the latest in technology. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.